Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen von Lahr, and you're watching Messenger. We're the guest of John Gray at his facility up in the mountains, and he's allowed us to interview some special guests that he had today, and one of them was Marcy Neumann. This Marcy Neumann is someone to watch. I am telling you, I've seen her do a number of programs, and I am getting more and more excited every time I watch her. Now, I've seen you do a nature spirit show. I've had you on my psychic show, and I am an executive producer of a number of shows, and I want you all to know that we've invited Marcy to be part of our Mind, Body, Spirit TV lineup. Excited about that, right?
You're kidding. I'm so excited. Thank you.
And we want you, the audience, to see all the different facets of Marcy. So today, we are going to have a little bit of an emphasis on that spiritual side, the metaphysics, the where and how of things. And we're going to get into all of that. But I wanted you to know that with this particular special guest, she brings something unusual. And this is what I liked about her. And you know, everybody's been vying to say who discovered Marcy. I mean, we got the cameraman in there. We got the other producer, Christopher Valentine. I'm watching her and I go, that's what we want. Man, everybody can connect with Marcy. She has a way of reaching out with that information and making you get in touch with her. So people are sharing your experiences, which is really great. And we want to bring that out. But you know what I noticed about Marcy is when she communicates, she actually goes down to this level of depth that everybody can resonate with. There's something for everybody. And in the first couple of shows, we talked about a lot of your products, and they were sort of empowerment tools, so we saw that side of her. And then we talked about your growing up life and how you became who you were. But you know what I saw? I said, this person has information for even the younger person. And so we have information for new generation, and that's sort of the idea we're thinking of to build a show around for Marcy. Now, what we want to do first, I think, is let's take some of those major topics that we've heard in, gosh, it must be half a dozen shows we've done already in the many programs, and I want to bring up some of those spiritual components. The first one that stands out for me is when you say soul. Now, that's a word, isn't it? That's a word. So many people have so many interpretations of soul. I'm just going to introduce a few concepts, and then let's get your impression, and let's see where we can go with that.
Okay, great.
You know, soul has always been a philosophical concept, and it's very prominent in Christianity and other religions, and we think of it as sort of a seat of our consciousness in some way. I do distinguish it in a lot of my programs and say that I consider soul and spirit to be two separate things, spirit a little bit higher. Spirit being like this eternal flame of us that lives through every existence we've ever had of any type of life we may have had, not even just as humans. And when that spirit of us decides that it wants the true learning, the expression, the understanding of life, then it causes, it's part of creation, and causes the soul to ensue. And from that soul we get other bodies. But most people will actually relate to that soul part of us because it's something that we actually have a connection to. We can feel it, we can see it, we can understand it. It's sort of like the heart of us at some spiritual level. And what's really clever is when we're out on the road teaching people about these things, we can actually see the soul. But that heart part is what a lot of people speak to. It's sort of like the essence of us. Do you have a perspective on soul that maybe the younger generation might relate to? Because I'm coming from this ancient wisdom perspective.
Well, yes. I think that I connected, first of all, to our soul's purpose. So it's almost like it's a formatting that's taking place within us that fuels all of our experiences in each body time in order to accumulate a certain amount of experience in many different aspects. But I also think that it holds the archives of all of those collective experiences. So we have this opportunity when we are getting in connection with our soul to really be an expressive unit, you might say, of everything that we've experienced already, connected to that which we are to become, connected to even the whole greater force, that whole collective, which is really an expression of every single one of us.
This is actually, I am actually, even though we're speaking to the younger generation, I've got to tell you, technically that fits into the ancient philosophy because we think of the soul as the repository in a spiritual sense. When we go from lifetime to lifetime, there has to be something of us that's retained, right?
That's right.
And it has to be put somewhere. And so, technically we call that the soul. I will say that we do try to consider the connection between the spirit and the soul as the higher self, which is the communication part of us.
That's right.
But even in that ancient wisdom, we say what we've learned in this lifetime, it has something to do with our ego in a spiritual sense, not the personality part that people speak to. And there must be something about this lifetime that was important, that was meaningful, that defined us in this lifetime. And so we got to keep that, and we have to pass that up to the soul. So this sort of begs the question, if we're taking all this information and we know it's valuable and we want to keep it, why? Is it for some other lifetime, or is it to govern us or guide us? Is it a way of is it a guidepost that we know that we did well in this lifetime? What do you think the purpose of the soul serves besides the repository? We must, if we have valuable information in that soul, we must want to use it in some way.
Well, I think it does a number of things.
Okay.
First is, I think that it reminds us who we are.
Ah,
And I think that for every single one of us, we want to know who we are. Isn't that our search through life at every aspect? Who am I? We're always asking that
and
question.
just a quick interjection, Marcy. So who we are, you're probably saying who we are collectively,
Exactly.
not just this lifetime. Wow, that could be powerful, right?
Yeah, very powerful. Because we know as a unit, we are certainly more powerful than just singular, right? However, each one of us has this such unique quality and purpose. And I think that this soul is this wonderful reminder that when we stay in touch with it, it reminds us who we are, that each of us has this divine life force energy within us that is part of a collective and yet completely unique, and therefore everything that we're doing is important. What happens often is when we lose touch with that, we forget that we are important. We forget our worth and our value. And so what we have to do is strive to create that strong connection to our soul, to set our spirit free so that it can take us where we need to go, and maintain the knowingness, the memory of who we are, and that we are vital to the workings of this universe.
I noticed that you did introduce a concept there which we don't see expressed very often, Marcy, and it's very important. Besides it defining us and who we've been, it is our connection to this collective. Brilliant. Okay. Obviously, this consciousness of us, or whatever we are, whatever we're trying to perfect in existence, there must be something greater. There must be something bigger. There must be something more. And it must be beyond our comprehension because we can only focus on this lifetime. So it actually is our connection to the universe, which is one of those big terms you like to use.
Dr. Von Lahr,
Yes.
have you experienced this? What I have found is that when I'm coming from my higher self, when I'm really in that full expression, I feel greater. And I feel more connected, not just to myself, but to you, and to you, and to you, and to you. I feel connected to everyone around me. Have you experienced that?
Absolutely, and that's sort of the nature of the work that I do. Of course, I've been doing psychism and teaching metaphysics and mediumship for like
World-renowned.
like 4 decades. I mean, so we've pretty much been in touch with a lot of these concepts and had different experiences from different people, and so I'm interested in yours too. But I will say that since that is the real us, okay, and since it has that connectiveness to it, when we are in touch with that higher self, soul, or spirit, because at this level it's kind of hard to distinguish those, right? We are not only sensing who we are, but potentially what we're supposed to be, not even just in the prior lifetimes or this lifetimes or all the other lifetimes we'll have in this universe, but forever, whatever forever might be. Even if the universe went away and came back again. Everything. We have a connectivity to all things, all of the divine plan. And so, of course, that's going to make us happier because that's bigger than what we are. In spirituality, metaphysics, this raising consciousness is about perfecting ourselves. But this is the interesting thing that I have found, is technically, Before we ever took our first life, we already knew all of these things. It's this experience of life that makes us think we're struggling to find something. We're simply rediscovering. So the answer is yes, I have found that to be true. And that's the exciting message you bring to people, because what Marcy does is she can reach out. She can really grab that younger audience, okay, that's struggling, that doesn't have the time these days to read 200-year-old books or 500-page books, you know, and they need a faster way to get that information. And they always can't go to the grandmother, and they can't wait till they're 50 or 60, right? So Marcy's bringing the information now that says we are connected to something, we're going to succeed, we're designed to succeed. And that positiveness that you think is so great in us, we started with, and it's just a matter of getting in touch with us, finding out what's great about us. And that means that we're not really different than other people. We can all have happiness. We can all have relationships. All the problems and barriers are probably things that we have put in our way. You know, we're going to come back because we are really off and running now, and we're going to discover more of the metaphysical, spiritual side of Marcy's wisdom and how we can improve your life.